Hey guys, Leonix here. I'm joined by Overlord himself, MonteCristo. First question, IEM, how was that interaction with Intel Extreme Masters to come on the analyst desk here in San Jose?
It was great. I mean, this is my first IEM event, so I was really happy to be able to be out here. I was a little sad. The schedules for OGN and IEM got kind of crossed up and mixed up, and so I ended up missing some days. So it always is a bit of a blow to miss some of the Korean tournaments, but it was really fun to be here to see some international competition. Great to see a team like Unicorns of Love pulling off a big upset, just super fun, and I hope to be back.
Was that just a preference of going to IEM, or were you scheduled before instead of the OGN preseason?
The OGN preseason was supposed to start a week later and got rescheduled after I had already committed to this event. So that was I was sort of obligated to come out here. OGN was very understanding about that, and I'll be back in the next couple weeks. So,
What are your feelings? I know maybe put up with a Korean team not being here.
well, that's not a choice that I think IEM makes. Like Riot makes a lot of the decisions about which teams are allowed to go to which international events, and I think that they probably felt that coming out right after Worlds, that it would be better to just have a smaller international event this time and kind of build into larger, big international tournaments by the time like IEM in the World Championship in Katowice rolls around in March, I believe. I mean, of course, I would have loved to have seen a Korean team out here, but at the same time, it's nice to see some other more local teams like the Brazilian teams, the Mexican teams, Lion and Pain, get more of a chance to show their skills and develop as a region.
When the lineup was announced for IEM and when you were invited, was Cloud9 winning? Was Cloud9 your go-to team to take the entire thing?
If you had asked me before I had spoken to any of the players, I would have definitely said Cloud9, just because they have such a history of innovation in the scene. And if you want to put safe money on a team being able to get the intricacies of a brand new, huge patch like this down, you probably should bet on Cloud9. But coming in, a lot of the players who I talked to in scrims were saying that TSM was really the team to beat here. So it was quite surprising, I think, when they got so completely destroyed by Unicorns of Love.
Talking about that, with Unicorns of Love beating TSM, did you notice anything strategically? Maybe I know that there's pocket picks in patch 4.20. I'm sure you've watched a little bit of the preseason of OGN.
I've seen all that.
Do you think there was a lot of strategy taken in from the couple of games before IEM from Korea?
Oh, sure. I think that the Lysandra and the LeBlanc really came over because I think there was a difference when I was watching some scrims before those picks really started coming out to afterwards, and the team started picking up on them. But obviously the pocket picks, like I had never seen that jungle TF shenanigans or anything like that. And there are other picks I think that are more popular in the West or more prioritized in the West than in Korea. But really, honestly, nobody has any idea what the hell is optimal at the current time. So there's a lot of experimentation going on. But yeah, there's some crossover, as there usually is, not as much as there was, say, at the end of the last season when things were a little bit more ironed out. I'm excited to see what the players keep coming up with, though.
Even though there was no Korean team invited, you being the Korean expert for OGN, what team specifically would have been voted in to go to IEM? What would your predictions be?
Probably SK Telecom, just because most fans are familiar with them, and since the Samsung Exodus they don't have any more of their players, so probably not going to be them. But I would have guessed probably SKT would have been the team that was invited to this event, what with Faker and all. And we really have a small sample size right now, and Faker didn't even play in the last couple of games for SK Telecom. But when he was playing, SK Telecom looked very strong, and so did Najin.
What are your thoughts on SK Telecom? I know that obviously they've changed the roster lineup a little bit here and there, Piglet going to Curse, and do you think it is going to be a better team for Faker?
I actually do, and we've seen very little of Maran, and again, very small sample size, but he really impressed in some of these games that he's played, especially his Lysandra play was very strong in the first game that they played, and Bengi, I still think that maybe if they could get Swift, it would be a long-term upgrade at that position, but he's still kind of a workhorse. He's just an average jungler. The change that I really like that they made was putting Wolf and Bang in the bottom lane, because if you look at previous seasons of Champions, Wolf and Bang were always so reliable. Bang would almost always be at the top, if not top 3 in terms of KDA for AD carries. Very safe player, very consistent player. And I think a lot of SK Telecom's losses when they had more of a rocky time was that Piglet and Mandu were never, ever, even when SK Telecom was winning Worlds, the best players in lane. We saw them lose lane to Xpecial and Wild Turtle. It was just that Piglet's playmaking in terms of split pushing was very good. Mandu's initiation and team fighting was much better than most other players. But Bang and Wolf are both very good in lane and good at providing damage from the outside of the team fight. And the last thing I think Faker needs is a playmaking AD carry. Get somebody who can go even or win lane and just let Faker carry the game for you. And I think that's going to be a much more consistent recipe for success for that team. And if they can get Marin to be the top carry that he was always supposed to be, you know, there was a lot of hype when he came in, oh, this guy's going to be the Faker of the top lane. And he never really demonstrated that. But at the same time, I think fans were very quick to criticize him because the thing about SKTS was that his style was completely opposite of the rest of the team's style. And I didn't see him working very well, especially with Easyhoon and Horo. So with a more aggressive mid laner that's drawing more pressure, as opposed to Easyhoon, it will free him up to make plays in the top side as well. So I think he may be a better fit than Impact because you have to move the playmaking. Previously, Piglet and Faker were the big playmakers. Now, that you have Bang and Wolf, they actually have room for a top lane carry, so Faker and Marin could be, or the dream, Flame, going to SKT could be the new big thing, yeah.
I know that OGN is more structured this year, almost like a KR LCS, almost, with the organizations being down to only one team and even a longer drawn-out season. Thoughts?
Well, the one team thing is sort of deceptive because these teams still have 10 players on their roster, and it's just that they can only have one team in the top league. But the thing about what's going on in Korea is that's probably going to actually hyper-concentrate the talent on these teams, because before there were teams like Blaze and Frost on CJ that could split up their top talent between two rosters, because the important thing was just kind of keeping your teams in champions for sponsor visibility, and you didn't have to necessarily totally stack one up, because then you run the risk of the other one dropping out and just not having that same level of visibility. If you could have two teams that especially could reliably reach the quarterfinals, you're probably going to be in a better situation from a management perspective for the team. But now you really have to go all in, because you've got 5 players in your main roster, and then you have the other 5 who are going to be playing in a Challenger Series equivalent. And so there's no reason anymore not to just put the 5 best players on your main roster and have that flexibility where you can week to week or month to month kind of promote or demote, swap players between the teams to find that perfect team. So in essence, by compressing the number of teams in the league, you're actually concentrating a lot of talent that way too. And in a way, what I like about the system is that while Champions, there were a lot of throwaway games, amateur teams that would fill up kind of the rest of the slots who would then just get slaughtered. There's enough talent in Korea to have 40 players, and it should make the average game in Korea a lot more high level.
I know this is maybe a little bit lengthy. I know that Korean infrastructure is obviously developed more than the Western culture. But with the new upcoming patch 4.20, and entering into Season 5, I know Season 3, Season 4, a lot of different regions would actually copy or play the same way as Korean teams. Do you think that's going to be the same way as in Season 5?
I think there will always be emulation of the best teams, and more than likely just because of language differences, even though we do have a lot of talent going to China from Korea, and those teams are likely to be quite good as well. I think that by the time Worlds rolls around next year, enough new talent in Korea and that synergy will develop that Korea will still be the strongest region. And as for that emulation, if you see the best players and the best teams in the world doing something, you're going to want to take something from that. My hope, however, is that with a lot of these jungle changes, as Riot starts tweaking them, some more of these items get a little more balanced. It's always wacky in the preseason. Something's always overpowered. That's just how it is. But by the time we get these leagues starting, hopefully there will be enough champion diversity in the jungle that we can really see a lot of weird picks, and the more pocket picks and more region-specific picks should be hopefully more available than they were in previous seasons.
Last question. If Riot offered you that full-time position of a shoutcaster, would you take that?
Probably not. I actually really like being a freelancer, and while I love what Riot does for esports, and obviously the job security there is quite attractive, I still want to keep working in Korea, and I enjoy being able to cast other games. I enjoy being able to do my own shows and my own content, and I think that level of freedom is really important to me. And as far as a long-term career as a pure caster as well, because I work for OGN, I always have the opportunity to do another game. If another game starts getting big and OGN starts broadcasting it, I can immediately also start doing that title. I did StarCraft 2 with OGN. Doa does Hearthstone with them. I may do other games coming up in the next year. And so I really want that freedom, but I still want to keep working with Riot because I love League of Legends, and I do think they're doing fantastic things for esports. But as a direct employee, I probably would not want to do that.
Shoutouts?
Oh, I don't have any shoutouts. Shoutouts to OGN. Thanks for doing the interview for me. I guess my sponsor, Cooler Master. They make an awesome keyboard called the Nova Touch.
IEM?
IEM, of course, for having me. Thank you.
All right, Leonix here. If you want any more content just like this, be sure to check out SK Gaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Do whatever you got to do to keep that content rolling. Other than that, until next time.